Welcome to Senior Break. I am Marie May from Addison Township Senior Center, and I have two very special guests with me today, Terry Stiles from OCTV and Susan Woodard. And Susan's going to speak on memoirs today. And Susan, could you give us a little background of how you got into this?
Well, I've always been a writer, but I was, by the same token, I always felt like I was hampered by a distinct lack of imagination. So I'm not a Stephen King, I'm not an Anne Rice. I can't conjure up characters and plot lines and make a whole book out of it. So I discovered early that if I were to pull out little segments from journals that I've kept, and I started journaling when I was 12, so I have like 60 years worth of journals now. I can pull out little excerpts from my journals and sort of weave a story around that. So flash forward, and I took some memoir writing courses in college and did very well with it. And then flash forward even further, I took a trip to Poland and I was trying to find information about my family. And I found that whenever I would discover a little snippet of my ancestors' lives, it would open up more questions like, okay, we have a date when a child was born and then that child died a year later. What happened? There's no record of it. So everything I discovered generated more questions, and I found myself thinking, I don't want to leave my family with these kinds of questions, so I think I'll start writing memoirs about my life so they can get a feel for what I experienced in my life. So that was really how I got into it, and then ultimately I began holding my own classes.
So you said you started a memoir writing class in college. What was that like? What was the main goal of that particular class?
Well, the instructor would give us a topic, and then we'd have, a couple of days to write our memoir. It was a learning experience because memoir does follow a certain format. You don't use it as an arena for retribution. You're not getting even with people that you're angry about or angry with in your past. And one thing I learned is that if you do have issues with someone in your past and you're writing about that person, let's take your mother, for example. It's okay to talk about some things that your mother did wrong, but you need to balance it out with what were the good things about your mother and what were her attributes that contributed to the kind of person that you ended up being. Nobody is all bad and nobody is all good, so you want to keep that in mind when you're writing memoirs.
It's going to be really therapeutic.
It is very cathartic and therapeutic. Yeah, because sometimes when, and I found this to be true with my journaling. I've always said that if it hadn't been for my journaling, I probably would have been in a mental institution because I worked out all of my issues with the written word. I was able to get it all out, get it documented, and then reading that later, you almost find yourself looking at yourself objectively and thinking, I know what advice I would give to this person. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Or maybe you even arrive at a point where you forgive yourself for something you've done because in your mind it's a terrible thing. On paper, it's not so bad.
It doesn't look so bad.
Right, yeah.
And can you tell us what is the difference between a memoir and just writing a book or writing a bio about yourself? What would be the difference?
Autobiography, which is your life story, will begin the day you were born, and it'll follow your entire life with dates and facts. Requires a lot of background research because you want to be very accurate in an autobiography. People are going to be reading it, and if you say, yeah, I remember when Kennedy was shot in '64, they're going to be, wait a minute, that was '63. So you have to be very specific. Memoir, on the other hand, is not a documentation of your entire life from day one to present. It's more of like snapshots. It's one day you have a memory of the day you, I'll pull from my own life. My little brother and I were walking to the store. He darted out in the street and got hit by a car. That is a snapshot. That's a moment in my life that I would take and then tell the story of that specific moment. So it's not the whole chronological log of my entire life. It's just memories. And if you really pay attention to your mind, I think we all find that we probably have little snippets of memory that passes through our minds 100 times a day, and they're triggered by our senses primarily. Smell, sounds, a song.
Wow.
A song will catapult you back to the past, and you'll have very vivid memories about where you were, what you were doing when that song was playing, or when you smelled that perfume, or
So that's the time that you pull out your book and start
yeah,
writing.
I have notes in my phone that when I have a memory, I get my phone out and I speak just a few words to jog my memory later, because the other thing about memory is you'll have a flash and just as quickly it's gone. And then later you're trying, what was that I was thinking about? And you can't remember.
Yeah.
So it's really important to keep a notebook or notes in your phone or some way of reminding yourself what that snippet of memory was that you experienced during the day.
How long is a memoir usually?
Well, now there are book-length memoirs. I'm thinking of Elizabeth Gilbert's book. I think her name was Berg, not Gilbert, Berg. Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that was a memoir, but it was a book-length memoir. Okay. But again, it was about a very specific time of her life.
Right.
Me Talk Pretty One Day by, can't remember his name. But yeah, there are a lot of book-length memoirs out there. So there's really no caveat for the length of a memoir. In my classes, I do ask that my students keep it to about 1,500 words, because we go around the room and we read our memoirs, and every person's memoir generates discussion afterwards, because through that person's memoir, other people are having, oh yeah, I remember, oh yeah, let me tell you about me. So there's always a lot of discussion, and we have to have a limit on the length of our memoirs, or we'll be there all day.
We want to hear more about this. It's very interesting, but right now we're going to stop for a short break, so we'll be right back.
Who can you turn to for news you can trust? Your local TV and radio broadcasters. You trust us to keep you safe during times of crisis and to deliver the weather, sports, and entertainment you rely on every day. We bring you the facts you need to make decisions that matter. And as misinformation floods social media, you can trust your local stations to deliver the truth. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress you rely on your local stations for trusted news.
Welcome back to Senior Break. Today I have two special guests, and we were speaking to Susan Woodard about memoirs. And you're going to just fill us in on how to get started on that, right? You're going to let us know, teach us how to get started on a memoir.
It reminds me of when I was like 12, I used to write a diary, and of course it was about the guys I had a crush on or how bad school was that day. And I always wanted to then journal, because I know that number one, that's a history of your life, but number two, it's therapeutic. This sounds a lot less stress-inducing than forcing myself to write a journal. Like, I have a girlfriend that writes everything she did during the day. And I just get overwhelmed by that.
That's a lot.
So what are the steps that you teach?
Currently, my classes are very casual. I don't really care if people have writing experience. It's very loosey-goosey. Just show up,
nice.
write something, share a snippet of your life.
Nice.
Everybody's welcome, and we don't do any critiquing. So I'm not really currently teaching any kind of structure. However, that being said, if I were to teach a class, I probably would lay out the fundamentals, which, as I mentioned, memoir is not meant to be a way to get even with people. If you think it's going to end up putting you in therapy, maybe you shouldn't go there, because I've had some moments in my current classes where people ended up writing something that had us all crying, and
Yes, of course.
and then you're kind of like, maybe you need some help with this because clearly you're still having some issues. But it's really, I also would instruct people to try and interject dialogue. If you can remember specific words that people have said to you, it always adds color to your memoir. So use some dialogue. And 9 times out of 10 people, might be hard to believe, but they need a little bit of help with the proper format for writing dialogue. Use your quotation marks and a comma, capitalize it, whatever. So there's some formatting issues that you want to be aware of. I also would admonish them to use, in the memoir genre, it's called carnality, which is nothing more than your 5 senses. Anytime you can interject something that speaks to the way you felt, smelled, the sound of something, that adds color to your memoir as well. The weather, even, it was a beautiful spring day, contrasted with the fact that maybe somebody's dying, that adds color to your memoir. So there's a lot of literary techniques that you probably would be using whether you were writing memoir or not, just to kind of make your memoir a little more interesting. A lot of people, when they start writing memoir, will interject the word anyway when they're writing. So I went, I had a really contentious relationship with my mother anyway, blah, 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 anyway. And you want to get away from using
Crunch
things
words.
like, yeah, exact fillers.
A filler word.
Right.
Yeah. As far as, did you ask about getting started in journaling?
Well, I've always pushed myself to start journaling, and I get, 1 page, and I did this today, and I did that, and I'm bored with myself.
Yeah.
And so
and
I
people,
love the color aspect of what you're
yes,
saying.
I, like you, started at 12 with those little diaries. Went to school, wore a yellow ribbon in my hair today, and Mike liked it.
Yeah, exactly.
But as I got older, there wasn't enough room for me to write. And by the time I was in high school, I was just filling up pages of loose leaf paper and keeping them in a binder. And I would produce about 350 pages a year. I did not write about minutia. I wrote about feelings, and I wrote about the high points of my day, which my family today holds against me because they'll start reminiscing. Yeah, remember that time? And I'll be like, that's not how that happened. Oh, yeah, it was. Nope. And I'll go to June 22nd, 1968, and there it is. Wrote it the day it happened, and they can't dispute it.
Yeah, right.
So through the years, my journaling became just a part of my routine. I couldn't sleep unless I had journaled. And again, it was like therapy for me too, and helped me work through a lot of issues. I found when I got older and had children, especially the teenage years, I could go back to my journals during my teenage years and go, oh, it's not so bad. I went through the same thing. So it was really helpful to me too.
Yeah, wow. And as far as writing is concerned, you actually write pen and paper?
Until about 1996, it was all handwritten. And then, of course, the dawn of the computers. And I started using the computer and found that I could produce even more because, but a lot of my students or the participants in my classes still write longhand, and they still maintain, maybe because of our generation, that the computer is too fast for them. They think better if they take it slowly. For myself,
Yeah.
I can no longer, my mind gets ahead of my hand.
Right.
Plus my hand cramps now when I try and write things. I just, my writing muscles are out of condition.
Yeah,
So.
so that's something. That's like reading a map. Gosh, we don't have to read a map anymore. I
Right.
forgot how to read a map. So what would you recommend when somebody starts on this journey? First of all, take your classes, and we'll get into that too. Starting out slow, what do you recommend that will encourage people to keep going?
I think one of the first things you can do is sit down, divide your life into early childhood, later childhood, early adolescence, and then write the high points as they come to you for each of those time periods of your life. Go back and then pull one and then break it down even further, feelings and maybe more specific incidences. And then you've got a trove of experiences that you can pull from. Because one of the hardest things to come up with in memoir is, I hear people say all the time, I don't have anything to write about. And I'm like, you are 70, 80 years old. You have all kinds of stuff to write about. So before you really jump in and start writing the memoirs, take the time to revisit your life, the different time periods, the highlights, the low points. And that's going to give you a lot of fodder to pull from that you can
Of course, build on.
build on. Yes,
Right.
thank you.
Plus, you know, so many times I wish that my grandmother would have done that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
My mother would have done that, you know, so that we would have something. You know, all we really do is have our memories, and we don't really know
Right.
how
And
accurate
when
those
we're
are.
gone, those memories go with us, and
Yes.
nobody will ever
Yeah.
know what our life was like.
Yes.
And you know, there's so many times now, both of my parents have passed. There's so many times now that I wish I would have asked. I wish I would have known this. So my sister and brother are doing a lot of the genetic background checks, you know, and they're following the history. My brother's passed also, but my sister's going back to like the 1500s in our family. I wish I knew my parents' lives. I mean, I remember stories they told, but I don't know what they went through, really. So
All you have are
wish
the high-level facts,
highlights.
dates and
Yeah.
places,
Yes.
and no backstory.
Right. I don't know what my mother was thinking when she was
Yeah.
walking from Hazel Park to downtown Detroit.
And
That
if
would be so nice to know.
If the siblings heard the story at the same time, they all got different versions of it. So
Oh,
if
so
it's written
true.
down,
Yeah.
you know what's right,
Right.
because they wrote down.
Yeah, and even now, I mean, if you were to talk to a sister who had the same experience as you, your stories would be different.
So true.
And it's always a dilemma for memoir writers. How do we know what the true story is? And I always say, well, there's your story and there's her story. They're both true stories. They're just different perspectives. So don't worry about her story. If she wants to tell her story, she can. You tell your story the way you experienced it.
Well, we're going to stop and take another break, and we'll be right back.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. How to safely build a fire. How to control the flames. What to do with hot coals. How to secure your chains.
There's no sparks.
But I can only teach wildfire prevention. Only you can prevent wildfires.
In today's digital world, it's hard to know who to trust. Your local TV and radio stations bring you the facts. Misinformation and deep fakes flood social media, but broadcasters deliver verified and accurate news. For news, emergency updates, sports, and entertainment, turn to your local stations. Text TV to 52886 and urge Congress to support the vital local journalism broadcasters provide.
Welcome back. I'm Terry Stiles, and I'm with two very special guests, Marie May and Susan Woodard, right? Mm-hmm. A memoir writer. I love the topic. I've never heard of such a thing in my life. So is this something new that people are doing, or is this people are doing it across the United States?
Frederick Douglass wrote a memoir. No, a memoir is not new by any stretch of the imagination. I think in recent years, it's become a very popular activity, particularly for seniors, because they're becoming aware of their legacy and they want to leave behind their opinions and a record of their lives. So I'm finding that, across the United States, I don't know about the rest of the world, but it's become very trendy for seniors to get involved. Not only does it create a sense of community and support among the participants, but writing is a skill that keeps your mind sharp and keeps you,
Thinking.
Thinking.
Yeah.
And, after you write your memoir, you've got to edit your memoir. So you have to go back and you have to think about what you're trying to say. And which brings up another point. Always a good idea after you write your memoir, read it out loud to somebody, because you're going to find mistakes that you made in writing it or reading it out loud, that when you're reading it in your mind silently, you're not going to pick up on that.
Yeah.
And it must give you a sense of relevance as well.
Yeah, well, it gives you a sense of, I'm leaving my story behind. At least maybe I won't be forgotten.
Yeah, right.
So is it better to keep a binder where you have like loose leaf paper and you just put that in, or is it better to keep a book that's like a booklet?
Those beautiful books that
Yes.
you can get, the memory books.
Yeah,
I have several of them, and every page is empty.
So
I
which would be
no, I want really that.
Are you talking about the blank
Those
books you can
beautiful
buy?
books, yeah. Leather
Well,
bound.
I guess that's entirely up to the individual. But however, there are a lot of services online now. You would have to Google memoir websites, because none are coming to mind right now. But
Well, even Chat GPT.
yeah, ChatGPT you
Put
could
your,
use.
whatever your paragraph
But there are
is.
services where they'll send you a prompt every week. You have to pay for these services. They're roughly $100, $150 for a year. Every week they'll send you a prompt of a memoir. You write your memoir, you submit it back to them, they put it into print, and at the end of the year, you have a hardcover book and you can order as many copies as you want if you'd like to give them for gifts. So I have always thought that would be a very nice Christmas gift for a family.
Sure would.
I store all mine in a file in Dropbox because I haven't done anything with them yet. I keep writing them with the intent of having them bound or something someday to give to my family. But for now, they're stored in Dropbox.
Do you
for the sake.
categorize your youth and then your teenage and then your adulthood, or do you just put your thoughts on paper and just put it together?
I have through the years, as I have jotted down sparks of memory, I think currently I have a list of about 200 memories that I can pull from. And I'll go to that list and I'll just choose one and start writing. So I don't really there's no logic, rhyme or reason to how I do it.
Okay.
I suppose if you were to have them bound and you wanted to give them to someone, you might want to break them down into childhood, adolescence, just so it gives some cohesive feel for your life to anybody who's reading the memoirs.
Even if you don't remember what year that happened.
Yeah. I don't really have a problem with years because of my journals, but
Yeah, that's helpful.
But that makes it
Good for
easy.
you.
It makes it easier, I think, for a person to get started knowing that there's no order. Just if you have a thought, write it down.
Right.
You know, because then you'll start because if there's a lot of rules to it, you normally
You're
don't.
intimidated. All right, I don't want to follow any more rules.
Yeah. For one of my classes, my class in Rochester, when we began, I gave them a one-word prompt write about fear. And then I'd give them some guidelines. Write about something that used to scare you as a child or scares you now. How do you cope with your fear? Why do you have that fear? And then gradually the prompts became a little more specific, like, okay, write a memoir about a time you lost a friend. What happened to that friendship? Why, what sparked the ending of the friendship? Write about your lost love or your first love. How did you meet? Are you still together? So, lost my train of thought. I can't remember what sparked that comment, but I think you were asking how to decide what to write about.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And is it just random,
Yeah.
page after page of random thoughts, or
Yeah.
should you organize or
And you said a
categorize?
normal memoir is about 1,500 words, right?
Well, for my purposes,
Okay.
I keep touching that.
That's okay.
For my purposes, I ask my participants to keep it to 1,500 words for brevity, because we can't be there all day. Seniors are busy people. I don't know if you realize that, but they all seem to be going somewhere.
Yeah, just try to retire.
But as I said,
Relax.
there are book-length memoirs as well. So it's entirely up to the individual. Unless you're in a class and you have some mandates from the instructor,
Okay.
you're free to do whatever you want with your own memoirs.
So, do you provide your class an entire list of prompts? Like, do you hand out and say, here's a whole bunch of prompts that I know spark memories for me, so they might help you?
Yes,
Help them along a little bit?
in the past, I've done it both ways. I've had classes where week by week, I give a prompt. Okay, next week, write about this.
Okay.
But I found that people need time to kind of stew on, okay, I've been given a prompt and nothing's coming to mind, but you know what? 2 weeks from now, something might come to mind. So when I've got like a 12-week class, I now give them the prompt for the coming 12 weeks. This week we'll do this week we'll do that. And then they have time to think about
process
it
it.
as they're out driving or doing whatever, and they can jot down notes to themselves, which makes the memoir writing process easier for them.
I think one that you gave to us was try to write on something you remember that was a smell. You know? And
Oh,
I
right
can't.
And you couldn't remember
So
anything.
you got one right away.
right
and I
away.
can't remember one.
Oh.
No, so that could be.
And it takes me back to my grandmother right away.
Yeah, you said that right away.
Yep,
And I
lavender.
And I'm still trying to think of one.
Isn't that fun? So let's talk about your classes. How often are they? Where do you give them? When will your next one be? I think you're in the middle of one right now.
Yeah, at Addison Township for our seniors, Susan's been coming on Monday and once a month. It was usually the first Monday, but for November it won't be. It'll be the second Monday. And then in December, it'll be the first Monday at 11 o'clock at Addison. You're welcome to come. It's really good, even if you decide you don't want to take the classes, but at least you get the education on what to do when you're home.
Sure.
It's just a
Or if
wonderful
you want to
thing.
come with a memoir you've already written,
Oh,
feel free to do
oh,
that.
Yes.
No rules. You don't have to be a good writer. You don't have to have a lot of experience. Just get it down on paper and bring it in and read it.
Yeah.
And that's at Addison Township Senior Center.
Yes.
And then you're taking a break in January,
In
correct?
February, yes.
And February. And then you'll start up again in Addison Township
In March.
in March.
In March.
And that would be the first Monday in March?
Yes. Yes, it's the way it is now, it's best to check.
We'll
Always
wrap
check.
it up real quick, but if people want to get in touch with you, is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
And how do they do that? Do you have an email address?
Yes,
They can email you?
slw2459@hotmail.com.
Very cool.
This is great.
Yeah,
This is
right.
great.
Or they can get in touch with you too,
They can get in
Marie.
touch
How
with me
can
at
you do that?
Addison Township, 248-628-3388.
And they can get in touch with me, and I can get in touch with both of them at OCTV. And our telephone number is 248-628-9658. Our email is occtv.org.
That was an easy one.
It is. We've been around for a while, so we've kept it.
Well, thank you, Susan, for coming. It was
pleasure.
really, really informative, and it's so good that we're starting this.
Yeah.
So that people can have
Right.
memories. The younger generation can have memories, our memories. So
I love it.
thank you, and we will see you next week.